morning and welcome to the Kabbalah of Pesach. As we stand 3 Sundays before Pesach. So for the next 3 weeks we'll do each week a different topic and explain it on its literal level and then offer a little Chassidic thought, a Kabbalistic thought. So we'll start with, in order to have Pesach, you have to have the preparation for Pesach. And the preparation for Pesach entails, the most important thing is, as I wrote in my column this week, the idea of cleaning for Pesach. And getting rid of the Chametz. And the getting rid of Chametz, so the number one, on the biblical level, really the only thing you have to do is you have to just declare that all the chametz in your possession is null and void. You render it ownerless. You don't have to do anything else on the biblical level. That makes it ownerless. And as long as it doesn't belong to you, it's allowed to be in your possession, and there's no problem. But the rabbis were worried for 2 reasons. One is, if you only did that, there's 2 reasons why they said this is not enough. Because number one, if you have real important, valuable chametz, so you're saying that you're rendering it ownerless, and it becomes free for anyone. They were worried that you wouldn't, if it's such a thing to take effect, such a declaration to take effect, it has to be sincere and earnest. You have to be serious about rendering it ownerless. So if you're talking about a few, slices of bread laying around that you didn't see and it's under a bed or in a closet somewhere, so good. There's no question that you're sincere about rendering your chametz ownerless. But what about if you have a pantry full of chametz? Valuable chametz, you have $300-400 of chametz in your pantry. So, true, if you say that it's not yours, it's not yours. But do you really mean it? Are you ready to really give up on hundreds of dollars of chametz just like that? Or in your mind, you're really thinking no one's going to come over here, and it's not, you're not really serious about it. Because by law, you can then, after Pesach, just like anyone else, you can claim it as yours, right? It's ownerless, so now I take it. So you'll have in mind such a thing, and really even during Pesach, you're really not giving up your ownership of it. You're not sincere. If you're not sincere, then it doesn't take effect. If it doesn't take effect, then you own that chametz. And if you own that chametz, you're violating the prohibition. So rabbis came up with a 3-step process of getting rid of chametz. Number one, well, that was the first reason why they didn't trust that didn't like the fact that we would just render it ownerless, which biblically would be good. The second reason they were worried, for 11 and a half months a year, you're used to eating chametz. And you don't think about it twice to go to the bread box and take out a piece of bread. You don't think twice about going to the cereal cabinet and pulling out a box of cereal and eating it. If it's all going to be there, you're right, it's not yours. But it's right there available to you. What's the chances that you're not going to really... most people would probably, in error, go over to the bread box, go over to the cereal cabinet and eat. If it's there available to you, it's going to happen. You're not going to really refrain from eating chametz, even if by accident. So they were worried that would happen. So they said, that's not going to be enough. For those 2 reasons they said, bittul chametz is not enough. Bittul is nullifying the chametz. Rather, they demanded a 3-step process. Number one, you have to clean the house and physically remove all the chametz. And that is called biur chametz, the burning, first checking and finding and then burning the chametz. To physically get rid of the chametz. It's not enough to just nullify it. Now, regarding The chametz that you didn't find in your house, you went checking, and you did the bedikas chametz, you cleaned it for 2 weeks before Pesach, and the night before you did the search, and you still, maybe a piece of chametz is left over somewhere in your, away from your, you didn't find it, you didn't see it. So then they say, in addition to the bedikas chametz, in addition to searching the chametz, you nullify the chametz for those pieces, those extra things that you didn't find. So the things you did find, you get rid of them, you burn it the next morning. The things you didn't find, you nullify. But now we have a third problem. What do you do with all the chametz that you don't want to get rid of? It's too valuable to you. Imagine a store owner, a Romans, has to get rid of all the chametz, burn all their chametz. Kind of loss. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the way to get around that is, and it's not a question of getting around it, it's a question of how to make sure that he's not in violation of chametz, even though he doesn't burn $200,000 worth of merchandise. So the rabbis advised to sell that chametz to a non-Jew, and after Pesach, buy it back from him. So this way, you didn't lose it. It wasn't yours during Pesach, and everyone's happy. So what do we have over here? 3 things, right? The searching of the chametz. Burning the burning, physically getting rid of the chametz. Then nullifying chametz, and also selling chametz, and reusing it after Pesach. And before I explain this on a more esoteric level, I want to just go through for a few minutes the practical aspect of this. From time immemorial, from the olden times until our day and age, we all know that Pesach cleaning was quite a job. And I remember when I was a young kid, my father would come home every night, and each night there was another room done. Take out the beds, clean them and vacuum them, and then the closets, empty out the drawers. I'm talking about a thorough cleaning. And in a matter of a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks before Pesach, the whole house was done. When you got to the kitchen, it was really a job. But the truth is, there really is no way around it. This has to be done. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to get rid of all your chametz. You have to get rid of the chametz. So maybe, halachically, from the strict halachic point of view, maybe you don't have to go to the degree that they used to and we still do. Because under your mattress, you're not finding really serious pieces of chametz. You can find over there things, but you may find a candy that a kid threw there, or a piece of chocolate, which is chametz, which could be chametz. But it's probably of that type of chametz that one can argue is nullifiable. You can nullify that chametz, because you're not going to eat an old piece of chocolate that you find under a bed. So you nullify it, and it's not yours, right? And the rabbi is concerned that you wouldn't mean it seriously doesn't apply to that chametz. And the rabbi is concerned that you'll eat it by mistake. It's also a little far-fetched with tiny little pieces like that, leftovers. So as long as you do a cleaning, a serious cleaning, got rid of the obvious chametz, and you went and your kids, in your kids' backpacks, knapsacks, and things like this. So some argue you don't have to go crazy and do all the rooms like that and take out beds and turn over furniture. So whether you have to do it or not, according to strict halacha, that's something else. But I have to tell you that there's something about Pesach cleaning that makes Pesach Pesach. So we shouldn't be so hasty in giving up a tradition, which is a very important tradition, by the way, because if you read what I wrote this week, The idea of cleaning for Pesach is not only cleaning for Chametz, searching for physical Chametz, it's also about searching for the spiritual Chametz. I told the story to Alter Rebbe that he spent the whole night searching for his Chametz, the night of B'dikas Chametz, 8-9 hours he's looked for the Chametz in his house, which was probably half the size of this room. What exactly was the Alter Rebbe doing for 8-9 hours? In a room like this, in a Hefret, I can do this whole building in an hour. And it's not like he didn't start cleaning for Pesach before. The wife and him, and maybe he had some help. They went through like every Jewish household. They cleaned before Pesach. They didn't leave it for the last night. So what was he doing for a whole night? Obviously, he was looking for a different chametz. While he was also looking for the breadcrumbs and things like that, he was probably more involved in looking for a different type of chametz, the chametz within the soul, which, as we all know, is the ego and the Yetzer Hara. And although the Alter Rebbe didn't have a Yetzer Hara, he was a tzaddik. So on a higher level, he was looking for perfection of the higher. Who knows? So that's also important, that when you get into the spiritual mode of cleaning for Pesach, it also helps you get out of your own constrictions of Egypt, your own little Egypt, much easier when it actually comes to the Seder and the 8 days of Pesach. So don't give up on that tradition so quick. But I want to zero in today on these three levels of ridding ourselves from chametz. And by the way, the sale of chametz is not either a loophole that the rabbis devised and schemed and came up with that is like a joke, as people really do think it's not real. Sale of chametz, what did the goy pay you for it? They ask. And who's really serious about the sale? Is there a goy ever able to come to your house and take the chametz? I mean, it sounds like a big joke. But it's not. Why is it not? Because I will tell you that when you buy a house, you have a contract, right? If you looked at the sale of chametz contract that is signed with the goy, I don't think it's any less detailed than the sale of a house contract. It's involved in so much detail with guarantors, it's an incredible, effective transaction that would be held up in any court of law. What is the basis of this contract? What you're doing is you're designating all the chametz in these addresses, in these homes, and the goy is making a down payment. He's making a down payment of, let's say, $1. Say $1. Makes a down payment, and the rest he's going to pay later. Now, you say, how much is the value of all the chametz that he bought? He doesn't even know what's in your house. Right? He doesn't know what kind of chametz you wrote down on you just wrote your address. It could be $100, it could be $500. So the point of it all is that if the goy wants to exercise his right, he bought the chametz, that chametz belongs to him. You're not allowed to touch it. If you do, you're stealing, it's theft. From the minute it's sold to the minute it's bought back, if you touch that chametz, it's theft. It's not yours, it is his completely. And he has the right to exercise you can come exercise his right and take the chametz from your house. And if he comes on Pesach and says, I bought your chametz and let me in, you must let him in. And he can take it. Only then, what will happen is a proper evaluation of everything he takes will be done. And then he will pay you the dollar value for what he takes. In other words, if he exercises it, by actually taking it, then he has to pay, because the down payment that he made is only a down payment. If later on he has to pay the whole value. Now, if he doesn't take it away during Pesach, So then after Pesach, the rabbi knocks on his door and says, would you like to sell it back to us? And if he says yes, then he sells it back. And you pay him a down payment also. You give him back the Chametz. For what he paid you, you pay him back. So he never exercised, he never had to really pay for the whole thing because he sold it before he exercised his right. So the transaction is now reversed. You bought it back from him. But it's a real sale. It's not... The rabbis were very strict on the contract, how it has to be written, that it should be meant, that the guy knows that he's actually buying it, and this is not your chametz during those 8 days. Anyway, so with that said, let me get into the more inner dimension of these 3 steps in preparing for Pesach. We all know that the Chametz represents the Yetzer Hara. In every dough, what makes the dough rise? Not the water and not the flour. What makes it rise? The yeast. The Se'er Shebe'isa. The yeast within the dough. The Yetzer Hara is the yeast within the Jewish life. When you go to the Oil, there's a little book that you read. It's called the Meaning.According. And over there it talks about, there's a lot, it's a whole 50-page book. And you read over there and you talk, it's a time of introspection, and you're telling Hashem that you really want to be a good Jew. But what stops us? What holds us back from doing what we have to do? The yeast in the dough. That's what it says over there. What's the reference? The yeast in the dough. The Yetzer Hara, the body and the neshama is dough. Water and flour. What could be wrong with water and flour? But the thing is, Hashem mixed in a little yeast into the dough, and it makes it rise. It makes the Jew or any person have an egotistical self-consciousness that is very disturbing to Avedis Hashem, to serving Hashem. That's the chametz within your existence. Right? Now the chametz comes in all different forms. It's anger, arrogance, jealousy, all the different negative character traits that we all are familiar with, all too familiar with. So it comes before Pesach, and God instructs a Yid, I'm taking you out of Egypt. I'm allowing you to release yourself from all the constrictions of that hold back your neshama. That's Yitzias Mitzrayim, to go out of all the meitzorim, all the constrictions of the soul that hold back your neshama. But in order to experience that freedom, you have to first get rid of your chametz. You have to first get rid of your chametz. So what's the first thing you have to do? You have to burn your chametz. Physically take a negative character trait. Let's say someone has a real anger problem. He has an addiction to something. A chametzik addiction. Always getting angry. Or you're always drawn after something that you know is harmful for you. Let's take an example. Someone that is addicted to drinking. A person is addicted to alcohol. A person is addicted to alcohol, it's a real problem. So what does he have to do? What he has to do is, any counselor will tell him, the first thing you have to do is bir chametz. You got to get rid of every trace of alcohol in your vicinity. First, have to get rid of it. Spill it in the toilet. Get rid of it. Don't look at it. Don't see pictures of it. Nothing. To get rid of the addiction, you have to push it, burn every trace of alcohol in your vicinity. But is that going to make you now free of the addiction yet? That's not going to free you of this addiction yet. Because, so you're thinking all day long, how do I get rid of this addiction? That's what you're occupied, right? You're preoccupied with the alcohol, even if you don't see it, and you burned it, and it's not. but you're thinking about it, that alone is dangerous. Because it stirs up thoughts and stirs up, moves to the next level, and so you can't, so just burning and getting rid of an addiction and being preoccupied with ridding yourself of the addiction is certainly not enough. You have to do that, but right away you have to then be mevatel the chametz, bittul chametz. And remember I told you what bittul chametz is. To nullify the rest of the chametz, that which you didn't find. But in the metaphor, on the spiritual level, the bittul chametz would be nullifying it from your thought. What do I mean? Again, if you're going to think about it all day, you're going to be preoccupied with the addiction. Even in the getting rid of the addiction, your mind is there, your thoughts are there, your whole existence is there, albeit in a negative way. Not to do it, not to be involved with it, to get rid of it, but it's still that's where your head is. That's where your mind is. That's not good. So what you have to do after you burnt the chametz is bittul chametz. You nullify the chametz, you don't stop thinking about it. How do you stop thinking about it? It's in your mind. How do you stop thinking about an addiction? You get busy with something positive. You can't always be busy with getting rid of the negative. Then your whole life is in negativity. So what do you have to do? You have to do bittul chametz. You did the bedikas chametz, you searched for your addiction, you found it, you burnt it, and now you have to get into other things. In order for you to allow yourself to release yourself from this addiction, where your whole mind is not preoccupied with it, you have to nullify that addiction from your mind and consciousness. How? By getting busy with positive other things. To put your mind into other things. So that would be the bittul chametz, involving yourself in something else that's positive. Learn, daven, do charity work, go visit people in the hospital. Don't think about your negative. Don't think about the addiction that you're getting rid of. Put your mind elsewhere. So after you burnt the chametz, and there's not a drop of it all around anymore, now it's time to move on to something else positive, where you're no longer thinking about that negative experience. And this is very important in everything in life. You can't just talk about your Yetzer Hara all day, how bad it is and how negative it is. It'll get you nowhere. You'll be thinking all day about your Yetzer Hara. Imagine, they say the Chassidus on Yom Kippur. What's the difference between a Chassidic Yom Kippur and a non-Chassidic Yom Kippur?
One is depressed and the other one is...
A non-Chassidic Yom Kippur sits, says Al-Chet. Al-Chet is a 30, 40 line declaration of all the sins you did right, and goes through every one in detail. So what does a Yireh Shamayim do? A God-fearing person, he thinks about every one of those sins. I lied this year, terrible. He thinks how many times I lied, and to who I lied, and what the lie was. And then he says, the next one, I sinned with my mouth, I gossiped. And I think about who did I gossip, which Lashon Hara did I say in the last 12 months. You think you go through it all. And then you say, I sinned with the jealousy. And you start thinking about what everyone else has and you don't. And how was I jealous? And before the day is over, you know what you spent your day with? Thinking about every sin under the sun. Yeah, you're right. You thought about it, how terrible it is that I did it. But that's where your mind was for 24 hours. In sinfulness. That's Yom Kippur. What does a chassid do on Yom Kippur? He thinks about the 5 prayers. The 5 prayers represent the 5 levels of neshama. And you're building up to the highest level, to Ne'ilah, which is the Yechidish B'Nefesh, the essence of the soul. And how the God and the Jewish people are the nitzuk, the spark of every Jew is close to Hashem. And how the Hashem is close to every Jew, at the highest level of closeness is on Yom Kippur. So I'm giving you, so you have a choice. You can think about how many people you were jealous of this year, and how many negative thoughts you had, and how many negative times you spoke Lashon Hara, and how many times you lied, and how many times you cheated, and how many times you ate something you shouldn't have eaten. Or you can think about the essence of your neshama, and how Hashem is close to your essence today, and there's nothing greater than being a Yid, and it's the most positive experience, and so on and so forth. Which would you think is better? Obviously, a Chassid thinks about the latter. That's his Yom Kippur. Of course he says Al-Chet 5 times, 10 times. You say Al-Chet 10 times. But the Siddur is full of other things too. It's not only Al-Chet. So, in Bedikas Chametz and Bir Chametz, and the whole getting rid of Chametz, you can't just think about getting rid of your negative. If all you're going to think about ridding yourself of negative, you may get rid of the negative, but your whole consciousness, your whole Pesach is negative. That's all it is negative. And you beat yourself up, and you'll fast, and that's a Chametz, that's a Pesach, that's Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the next thing you have to do is Bitul Chametz. To nullify the addiction by busying yourself and focusing and transferring your whole effort and your energy onto something strictly positive, godly, holy, spiritual, and so on. When you're busy with other things, you don't have time to worry about the addiction of the negative experience. Correct? But here comes the Baal Shem Tov and Chassidus and tells us an interesting thing. He says you have a problem with l'chaim, with drinking. A person has a problem with drinking. You shouldn't drink. Terrible thing. Or you have other addiction. Addicted to ice cream. Addicted to chvei, or some other thing. Or you're addicted to arrogance. You push it. You see yourself higher than everyone else, and you're always putting other people down and to put yourself up. So that's a problem. That's chametz. That's the yeast. You got to get rid of that. So after you get rid of it, you have to be mevatel the chametz and go and focus yourself on something else, on bittul, right? On something that calms you down, calms your puts you in perspective. But then the rabbi said, wait a minute, let's take a look at this negative addiction that you have, or negative character trait, arrogance, let's say, yeah? Arrogance is a bad thing, by all accounts, right? But is it all bad? Is every bit of arrogance is bad? Well, it depends. What is the definition of arrogance? You have a sense of self-pride, yeah? And that self-pride can make you feel like you're above everyone else. So that's where it becomes bad. Where your self-pride, you're rising, you feel yourself puffed up, right? You're the chametz idea of rise, the dough rises. The yeast makes you rise. When you rise in your self-estimation, your own self-estimation, the danger is that you put other people down. But is it always bad to have a good self-esteem? Is that yeast always bad? Think of it. You go onto a college campus, yeah? An 18-year-old, 19-year-old's on a college campus who walks around with his yarmulke, or tzitzis. You have a few, scoffers and mockers, and they, what are you doing? You got so religious. When did you become so religious, right? And he feels now intimidated by that. How is a boy like that or a girl like that to survive 4 years of such intimidation? And it can be very intimidating. That's one of the hardest things that Shulchan Aruch says is to be able to withstand the pressure, the peer pressure. Those that mock, those that laugh, those that try to deride you and bring you down. The first halacha in Shulchan Aruch, one of the first, is don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed of those that mock. And Shulchan Aruch knew something about human nature, especially amongst youth. So how do you get through that type of situation?
Self-pride.
You have to have your own self-pride. I'm a Yid, and I'm God's messenger here on earth. To build up that confidence within. So it's a sense of pride. It's yeast. Is all yeast bad? No. There's some yeast, there's some of that that character trait, you're trying to clean up house, right? You feel you're arrogant, you're over everyone else. There's a smidgen of that is not so bad. So the rabbis told you, don't burn all of it. There's a part of it you're going to sell, and you're going to buy it back after Pesach. And reincorporate it into your life in a healthy way. It's not all bad. So for Pesach, for that 1 week, we say cut it all out. Just, you want no part of pride. Because it's led you down the wrong path. It made you arrogant and made you put others down, which is the negative part of pride. But there's a part of chametz that the rabbis tell you, this is the part that you want. We want you to buy back after Pesach and reincorporate it into your life to utilize it in a positive way. So that you'll sell. Don't burn it. Sell it for these 8 days. It's not part of your reality for these 8 days because, let's face it, that pride has led you off the wrong path and made you arrogant. So maybe it's for 1 week a year, 8 days, is good to feel like you're really, have to really get rid of it. But there's part of that pride that the rabbis want you to buy back after Pesach. And utilize in your service, in your divine worship for the rest of the year, in a healthy way. So if you can get rid of the negative and reincorporate the positive of that chametz, that's the best way to go about it. So the rabbis talk about 3 forms of getting rid of chametz. The greatest part of arrogance and pride, just burn it. Burn it out. The negative aspect of pride you must burn. But to be preoccupied all day long with burning my pride. So again, your head is in Dal Chet, the whole Yom Kippur. Is that a way to celebrate Yom Kippur? So be mavatal the chametz. Think about something positive. Don't be involved in that thought all day long and burning chametz. Because then your whole head is into chametz. Like I said, in burning, but it's chametz. You got to be involved in something positive to make sure that you don't get carried away with this addiction again, with this negative trait. You have to be able to transfer your mind into something good. That's bittul chametz. And then the rabbis say, buy back the part of pride that's a healthy pride. Buy back that chametz that we want you to use after Pesach. That's the healthy part of the yeast. That's true with addiction, and it's true with sinfulness and negative character traits. This could be said about everything. A person has a laziness to work. A person speaks gossip. So what did the olden days Jews do that were gossipers? They put a zipper on their mouth. They made a fast of speech, no speaking, and that's it. They stopped talking to people. There were people that have made a tainus dibur. Tainus dibur means their mouth fasts, their speech fasts. They don't like fasting from food. They fast from speaking. They don't speak. They daven. They learn. They don't communicate with people. Why? Because when they do communicate, they're afraid it'll lead to lashon hara. And if they're a real good gossipers, so all the more they feel that they need to close their mouth. So imagine a person doesn't speak to anyone. I read stories of people that were like this for years and years. They didn't speak to people. So certainly the Hasidic mindset would say this is not a way to live life. Not to speak to people. What kind of what is that all about? So maybe for a person that's a big lashon hara person, maybe it's a good idea for him to close his mouth for a couple of weeks to get rid of the problem. So again, he has to burn the chametz, close his mouth. You have to be mavatal the chametz all day long. You're going to think, I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to this person, I'm not talking to that person. I mean, so you're thinking about Lashon Hara. You may not be speaking, but your whole life is about Lashon Hara. That's a life. You got to get out of Egypt. This is not a life to think about Lashon Hara all day long and how to fight it. So you have to be Mavatal the Lashon Hara. You have to be Bittul Chametz. Think about other things. Get involved in helping people. But is talking always no good? And maybe even talking against someone else is not always that bad. For example, a friendly criticism. You see someone doing something wrong. If you love him, we spoke about this Friday night, if you love a person really deeply, he wants to hear from you when he does something wrong. You need to set someone straight. So it's not Lashon Hara. But that's the positive aspect of the Chametz. You got to buy back. So you got rid of the negative aspect of Lashon Hara, and now you can reintroduce the positive aspect of talking to someone else, maybe sometimes a harsh word because he needs to hear it, not behind his back. God forbid, that's wrong. Always wrong. So that's the process. That's how it works with this. Chametz is not a negative thing. If it was all bad, Hashem would have said, you're never allowed to eat chametz. He only prohibited it 8 days a year, or in the Bible, 7 days a year. If it's so bad, it would be always prohibited. But it's not. There's certain parts of it that's bad. Like everything in life, money can be a terrible addiction. Be a terrible thing for people. Their whole life is the pursuit of money. They can never have enough. So such a person has to go through the same 3 steps. You got to burn this. The Rambam says this. A person that's always passionate about more and more and more and more, he has to get used to living a life of bare minimum. Fight that. But if that's all you're going to think about, it's also no good. So you have to start thinking about some other things. Okay, now I'll put my energy into something else, positive. Bittul Chametz. Bittul Chametz means you're nullifying the Chametz by getting involved in something else. So you stop thinking about it. You mevatel it within your system. But money, the whole world goes around money. You need money. If you didn't have money, you wouldn't give charity. You wouldn't be able to support good programs, good institutions, poor people, and so on and so forth. So the money, so it's chametz. That's the chametz you buy back after Pesach. When you got a healthy, you put the proper perspective to money, then you can go back and go make money. And it won't derail you. So it's a 3-step process like everything else in life. So we do it with physically, we do it with chametz and bread and so on and so forth. But within these 3 steps lies a tremendous psychological lesson for human behavior and human character. How to get rid of chametz, how to get rid of a negative behavior. You burn it, you mevatel it, and then you buy it back. You sow it and buy it back. With that, I leave you for a good week. We'll be back for more next Sunday.